And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Tuesday, December 17th. I'm Josh Engleman. I'm joined by DK, brought to you by us. Sign up at Stokastic, link in the description. You can get in the door for $0 if you sign up through one of our partners. You can find all of that information by clicking the link in the description, and I promise you, I'll talk about it in a little bit. Only one game today. It's kind of fun though. The finals of the NBA Cup, where the Oklahoma City Thunder will be crowned the champions for the first time this year. They'll get their second crowning a little bit later. Now hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. DK, who wins?
I think I got to lean with the Thunder. I think I agree with you there. But yeah, I'm actually excited to watch this game. Again, I haven't really watched a ton of regular season games. So I'm definitely going to watch this one. And then we have the day off tomorrow too. So light next couple days. Kind of looking forward to it, but kind of not too. I don't know.
I'm never mad about a free day off during the week because like holidays don't exist in this industry. No
hmm
matter what the sport is, it's Christmas always. If it's NFL, it's Thanksgiving. If it's baseball, it's Memorial Day and Labor Day and Flag Day and all those other days that happen throughout the summer. So I'm happy to get a free day tomorrow. But I guess they just assume we're going to be partying so hard for the NBA Cup finals that we're going to need an extra 24 hours.
Did you see the schedule too? It's I think 13 games Thursday and then only a couple games Friday.
There's 3 games on Friday.
Yeah.
I thought
So
I was actually pretty happy about that. When I saw that there were 13 on Thursday, I was like, oh God, they're going to give us like 8 or 9 on Friday. All these teams are going to be on a back to back, and it's going to be an awful day of just, I hop on the strategy show and it's like, well, 4 of these guys are questionable. This team doesn't have an injury report. So I don't know. I'll talk to you guys at 5 o'clock. At least there with 3 games, it's at least a little bit more manageable.
yeah, it's like the exact opposite too, because usually like Tuesdays, Thursdays like lighter days, and then Friday's like a big day, but
Yeah.
it's different obviously because of the break.
I'm
So
excited for once the NFL season is over and we start to get like the balanced NBA schedules where it's just like
hmm
5 to 9 every day and you just watch like you can get into that sort of rhythm from like late mid-January on. But for now, we're just gonna have these wild days where it's like, oh, we got 15 games today and 1 tomorrow. Enjoy it.
Woo.
Milwaukee Bucks are 5.5 point dogs, not in Oklahoma City, but against Oklahoma City. And if you guys haven't been paying attention today, the big news is that Chris Middleton is going to be out for this one. Illness, not injury, like it usually is for Chris Middleton. This is just simply illness. Everybody else that's normally available for both of these teams is available. And we've seen enough of Milwaukee without Chris Middleton that we kind of have an idea of how this one works. So that'll be at least a little bit helpful. Let's start it off. Ah, shit. Where do we want to start it off? Let's start it off talking captains. I think that'll be probably the easiest way to address this because there's a couple obvious options that every single person in the world knows. And then we could
hmm
talk about sort of off the beaten path type options. So I'm getting the showdown. The hell is it called? What is the name of that sheet? Is it just the boom bust? No, it's not the boom. Isn't there like a showdown version of this? I'm just talking to myself for this one.
I was gonna say I don't know the
That's the
answer.
NFL one. That's fine. We'll talk ownership for the captain spot on DraftKings right now. So
Okay.
Giannis's utility salary at least 13K. He's $1,000 more expensive than Shea. Dame is at 10.8. Jalen Williams is at 10.4. Isaiah Hartenstein is at 9K. No one else is really in their universe. They are sort of the 5 pay up options. I don't really want to include Bobby Portis and Brooke Lopez in that deal at north of 7K price tags. We're getting, call it 25% ownership to Giannis, around 25 for Shea. Giannis is more owned, but they're in the same ballpark. And then Dame, Jalen Williams, and Isaiah Hartenstein are all in that like 8 to 10 range. Obviously, paying up for Giannis or paying up for Shea makes a ton of sense. That's why they're getting half of the captain ownership. So I'm just going to pose this one to you first. Do you have a preference between those two guys?
I think I slightly prefer Giannis in the captain to Shea, not by a wide margin. Again, he's getting projected for a little bit more ownership in the captain spot, but I like the ceiling a little bit more with Giannis. And then also like Dame is dealing with that calf injury that
Yeah.
has bothered him in years past as well. So, that is slightly worrisome. Plus, like the Thunder are really, really good at defending the pick and roll there. So I think Giannis would slightly be the preference for me to SGA, but you can't go wrong with SGA either. Obviously, those guys are going to get the most ownership in the captain spot,
Yeah.
and it's for good reason.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer for whether you
Hmm.
want to choose Giannis or Shea. They have the two biggest potential outcomes. As of right now, actually, I have more of Giannis at the captain spot than I do of Shea. But Shea is also in every lineup that I have, whereas Giannis is slightly less than that, but not by anything major. I'm basically putting both of them in everything that I'm doing. So I can handle that for right now. Whether that changes or not, certainly could. We've got an hour and a half until this bad boy locks, so plenty of time to run 1,000 sims before we get to that point. But yeah, I don't have much to say with regards to Giannis and Shea. And look, that's a personal preference thing more than anything else. Separating those guys. What I think is the real interesting point is if you didn't want to captain Giannis or Shea, but you were looking at somebody that could conceivably be like the true high scorer on the slate, or at least close enough that the salary savings makes him more efficient in the captain spot. What do you like most between Dame, Jalen Williams, and Isaiah Hartenstein?
It's a good question. They're all coming in similar ownership in the captain spot as well. Um, I'll say Hartenstein because of the price point. Now,
Yeah.
on the year, he's 1.23 fantasy point per minute. I could see him playing a few extra minutes in a game like this for rim production, especially, Milwaukee's a bigger team. They have Giannis, Brook Lopez, and Bobby Portis, right? So I could see, they've been pretty consistent playing Hartenstein in competitive games, like around 30 minutes. He did play
Yeah.
33 against Houston. Like, I would not be shocked if that pushes for like 35 to 36 minutes in a game like this. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think for me, it would be Hartenstein. And then I would say J-Dub and then Dame for me.
So right now, Dame is actually the only other guy that I have at the captain spot of that pay up group. But
Okay.
if I were looking at this on my own, independent of the sim, he would be
Hmm.
the guy I wanted the least of. So
Yep.
it's a very interesting dynamic because I am getting to him in that way, but it's not like when I look through the data, I don't see it that way on my own. But I'm getting to more Dame than I ever expected to. It has me pay. I'm essentially paying down a lot to the cheap garbage. I don't want to say
Hmm.
garbage because the cheap guys from the Thunder are good, but you know what I mean. The cheap guys today, I appear to be jamming them a lot. The guy that I'm actually getting the least of in that sort of range um, is Jalen Williams, actually, who's basically not showing up for me. That is a very different scenario to where I was this morning, where Dame was the dude that I never expected to get to. And
So
to a degree,
he's
I
not
get
showing
it.
up at all
Like
in the captain for you or just overall?
overall,
Okay.
actually. But when you're looking at this group of five guys, if you're playing a package of lineups, it's not
Yeah.
surprising to me that like one of these guys has to get cut. There's only so much salary that you can spend. Inevitably, you're going to be lower, probably on someone. It looks like that's going to be Jalen Williams for me. I don't love that. I think I really like this matchup for him, and I really don't like this matchup for Dame. They have a lot of dudes that are, I don't want to say capable of stopping Dame because I don't want to sell Dame short, but they've
Hmm.
got a lot of bodies to throw at Damian Lillard to make his life be super not fun. Lots of really good perimeter defense that could be tricky for Dame. But if the shot's falling, we know how hot he can get. But yeah, like I mean, 10-8 is a pretty big price tag for what we're getting out of Dame here. Now, I think that it does help at least a little bit that Chris Middleton's not going to be in for this one. You can really consolidate everything you want to do into Dame and Giannis, whereas at least if Middleton is there, not that he's overlapping with Dame a ton, but
Hmm.
that does limit ownership or that does limit usage, that does limit the amount of touches that he's going to get. So to that degree, Dame definitely looks better than he did this morning with the assumption that Middleton was in. But obviously, I'm happy to have any sort of combination of those top five guys. You're seeing Giannis show up in close to 80% of DraftKings lineups. Shea's in close to 70. Jalen Williams and Hartenstein are both around like 45. And then Dame is actually sub 40% overall. I think that makes the most sense. I think he's more of like a pay up to be contrarian option today
Hmm.
than just like, oh, he looks good at 10-8.
Yeah, I feel like most people today are going to start with like Giannis and Shea in their lineups and kind of go get value and then maybe try to get to like one more like upper mid range play. So I think like Dame probably is the guy that, most likely to get squeezed here of like these spend ups.
Yeah. So let's ignore the spend ups now. If
Okay.
you were going to roll the dice on non pay up options, guys outside of that top five, do
Yep.
you eyeball anybody immediately that you think either plays more minutes in your opinion or fits this matchup perfectly or just salary works for you? Like where do you go if you don't want to pay up?
Yeah. It's a tough one because with Middleton out, I think the Bucks could do a couple different things here. Like they could go to just an eight-man rotation, and give kind of those like fringe guys like Gary Trent Jr. and Torian Prince and guys like that, like a minutes bump, or they could add a ninth guy like Pat Connaughton or even DeLon Wright. Like I was
Yeah.
looking back at the last couple games that before Middleton played, it was actually they were running like an eight-man rotation, but DeLon Wright was technically like that ninth guy. So I was trying to figure out that Bucks rotation. Do you think it's more likely that they go to eight, or do you think it's more likely that they maybe play one of like Connaughton or DeLon Wright for a shift or two?
So I leaned more towards Wright than Connaughton.
Okay.
I gave him like a couple more minutes in that filler after Middleton left the lineup. I don't have a great feel for it.
Hmm.
If the game is competitive, I think we're more likely to see 9 in the first half and 8 in the second half,
Yeah.
where they, like you see the game's close at halftime, and then whatever minutes you think either DeLon Wright, unless they played great, and whatever minutes you think DeLon Wright or Pat Connaughton were going to play, they probably don't show up in the second half. Because if it's competitive, then I think that's where you start in the second half. You start to stretch Giannis, you start to stretch Dame, you probably stretch Lopez, although, in theory could be Bobby Portis, but like I think that's where they start to consolidate their minutes to the best dudes to try to win the game, and that's where you lose that extra guy. That's the way that like I think it happens if this game goes and is close enough that they can make those sorts of decisions.
Yeah. So as far as your question too, again, of like where would I look to next below like the spend ups? Well, like I think the guy with the highest ceiling is Bobby Portis of this group, but
Okay.
I think his range of outcomes from minutes is relatively wide. Like you did see two of the last three games, he played what 32, 31 minutes. In that most recent game against Atlanta, he only played 23. So like I think it's most likely that he only plays like in that low 20-minute range. But if you see him get extended, obviously the ceiling's massive. Like the two games we got extended, he put up 40 plus fantasy points in both those games. So he is someone that I think is interesting for that reason. Again, I'm not super confident in the minutes, but
Yeah.
I think like of this next group of guys, I think he probably is the guy with the highest ceiling.
I'm with you there. I'm nervous about him in this matchup. I think that
I
he's
know,
going to
I am
get
too.
picked at like a scab today because look, when he's on the floor, the first thing that Oklahoma City is going to do is get him in a pick and roll
Right.
and go at him over and over again. We have to remember that we need to treat this game sort of like a playoff game where a team
Right.
is going to game plan a little bit different. OKC and Milwaukee for that degree, but OKC has been solely focused on a matchup with the Bucks. Mark Dagnall is one of the best coaches in the league, and I think that if they know that Bobby Portis is going to be on there, they're going to put him in every action that they possibly can. He doesn't typically hold up in those scenarios. He's going to need every bit of his offense to keep him on the floor.
Hmm.
The problem really for the Bucks is that they just don't have much else to fill in behind him. It's not like Torian Prince makes you feel good. Andre Jackson brings absolutely nothing to the table offensively. AJ Green's going to be out there to just bomb threes. And then it's kind of bleak for the rest of anybody you want to name on Milwaukee. Gary Trent is probably like the safest dude to me out of
Hmm.
anybody for Milwaukee because he can kind of do a little bit of both things. So I'm scared of Portis, but in terms of like if he gets the minutes, you have to assume that if he gets more minutes than we expect, the offense is at least working. Because if the offense isn't working, then he's just not going to get those minutes because he doesn't have anything else to keep him on the floor. So I think he's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy where the more minutes you see from Portis above his mark definitely means that like the ball's going in.
Right. Yeah. So like I said, I think just like relatively wide range of outcomes. I agree with you though. I think like most likely he's not going to get extended this matchup because Oklahoma City is really good at attacking those guys. So they did it against the Pelicans in the playoffs last year. Like
Yeah.
when they had JV on the court, like they just put him in a pick and roll every single time.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I'm worried about with Portis. I think most likely he's not going to get extended, but in the rare scenario where he does, again, like he does have that pretty high ceiling.
Do you have an Oklahoma City option in the same sort of question?
Um, that's a tough one. I don't think so. I think of the next group of like Thunder guys here with like Dort and Case and Wallace and Caruso and Isaiah Joe even. I think the ceiling probably is the highest on Lou Dort. I think he's obviously they're going to utilize him a ton. He'll probably be the primary defender on Dame, right?
I think they'll probably rotate through it quite a bit, but yeah,
Okay.
I like for a lot of it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, the issue, I guess, is he's just a little pricier than some of those other guys, but I think he has like the highest ceiling of that like next group of Thunder rotation players.
Let's see, who do I? So I'm guessing, who do you think starts on Giannis?
Um, J-Dub?
That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's going to be a lot of moving people around,
Hmm.
but yeah, I kind of feel like it's him, and then because I don't think it's Hartenstein.
No, I would be pretty surprised if it's Hartenstein too.
Are you expecting any starting lineup changes for either one of these teams?
I don't think so. But I will say, like off the bench, would it make sense that like maybe Kenrich Williams plays a few extra minutes as like another body that can throw on Giannis?
I think so. He's a guy that I like quite a bit today. I think this
Yeah.
matchup is like uniquely set up for him. Bucks give up more threes above the break than they do in the corner. Nobody takes more of those than either Isaiah Joe, Kenrich Williams, or Dort. So those guys kind of look a little bit more interesting to me if that's where they're going to be able to get some free shots. I'm guessing we see, yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with Hartenstein from a defensive standpoint. Because in my mind, the spot that you put him is actually Andre Jackson, where he could be the final line of defense once Giannis gets downhill. But then that leaves an interesting matchup for Brook Lopez, which
Hmm.
could create a scenario where Brook Lopez is able to get some touches against a small and potentially try to capitalize. It's really like such a chess match for all of
Right.
this stuff because you start thinking about one side, you think about the counters, and that becomes like the conversation for playoff basketball. Man, I love it. I can't wait till the playoffs are here. It's going to be fun.
I will say, yeah, like I prefer the bigger sites for sure, but like getting into the nitty gritty, like these small like showdown sites and stuff and talking through stuff, it is fun too. Like I enjoy these
Yeah.
sites as well.
Yeah, I like the Kenrich shout that you had before. I do think this could uniquely be a good Isaiah Joe game for
Hmm.
maintaining spacing. His minutes have been really weird, but I do think that he fits kind of the style against the Bucks. Now, in theory, you're also putting Isaiah Joe in basically every pick and roll that you can. When you go on the opposite side, doesn't really have the size to hold up in that, but certainly going to work his ass off. They just have so many different options, and that's where it starts to get scary because I think we're probably on the same page here. Some Oklahoma City bench guy is going to play probably a bit more than we ever expected and be the dude that we want. But I don't have any confidence in figuring out who the hell that is. Like, is this the game they juice Alex Caruso's minutes and give him a test in like a game with some teeth in it? Is Isaiah Joe just out there for more stretch and they want to just space out Milwaukee and do whatever they can? Does Kenrich Williams play more because he can shoot the three, he can space the floor, he can defend anybody that they need to? Not that I'm saying he's like locking anybody down, but you're going to be happy with what you're getting defensively. Is it Aaron Wiggins, who feels like he's been put on the back burner as of late? Do they cut their rotation and shrink this down to a more playoff style rotation and concentrate their minutes a little bit more? I find OKC really hard to nail down. If you were going to take one, yeah, I think Dort is probably the answer if I wanted to take someone in the captain spot that isn't a pay up for OKC, because I'm really nervous that anybody else is going to acquire enough stats that makes it super interesting. Like, he can get hot from time to time. It's not something you see a lot. It's been a while since he had that ridiculous series against Houston and James Harden. But he's going to be out there for the biggest chunk of minutes. The 6K price tag isn't all that prohibitive to me. This is kind of the matchup that you want him for to just go crazy, which also makes me think, like, I wonder if he's just not looking for his offense and his entire focus is play defense and it gets funneled otherwise. There's so many like if this then that questions for this type of game. It's kind of what I love. Is there anybody that like is a conceivable captain option that you just don't like today?
Um, I mean, I'm mainly looking at the top end guys. As I said, like I don't think there's a lot of
Yeah,
like the cheap guys that I love in the captain spot.
agreed.
So I mean, I guess like Dame, if I had to pick an answer, because he's someone that I think is in
Yeah,
consideration for the captain, but like he's probably be my least favorite of the guys that I would personally consider. Because I don't think I mean, I mentioned Portis. I think he'd be like fringe viable, but again, really nervous about his minutes. And then again, like Dort would probably be the guy, but I just don't think he has enough ceiling in a game like this. You would need like a really big outlier from one of these guys to put up
yeah,
a performance for where they're like in the winning captain spot.
yeah. It would have to be quite. I mean, it's probably going to happen with like really big outlier stocks,
Yeah.
like somebody falls into 5 steals or something and they can augment their scoring enough. Because when you look at Jalen Williams, Dame, Shea, and Giannis, it's really hard to not picture one of those guys having such a big number that you can't make those points back. Because none of the rest of these guys aren't necessarily like, in general, not necessarily the best per minute dudes.
Hmm.
And that's where it gets kind of dicey.
And too, it's like the mid range is not great on the slate. When you
Yeah.
go below like the top five guys, it's like Portis and Lopez we talked about, like kind of hard to get to. Doris is 6K. So it's just like it just sets up for that stars and scrubs build where I think a vast majority of the people, including myself, are probably going to go to.
Same. All right. Well, we broke down quite a bit of this so far. We got about 1,000 people in the door. Only 100. Well, actually, technically, only 94 likes, which turns my stomach. This is the NBA Cup Finals, folks. We got NBA Live Before Lock coming up next at 7:45. Can we hit that like button, run that number up a little bit more? I don't want the Live Before Lock crew to feel bad when they get in here because the like number is just comically low. So hit that thumbs up if you've been in here and you haven't hit it yet, because that's like 900 of you. Rude. So rude, guys. It's hard to talk utility as if that has any utility. I mean, you're playing 5 of them. Everybody gets like 15% ownership at least if you're expected to be out there. Who are the guys that you kind of want to take a stand on today? Like, obviously, yes, Giannis, yes, Shea,
Hmm.
yes, Dame, but
Right.
like, have you carved out your extra guys yet?
Yeah. So I think like Cason Wallace of like the value plays is probably the guy I just feel like the best about.
Uh-huh.
Getting decent ownership, but just has like a very secure role, is coming in at a reasonable price point. Like I think he's probably playing around 30 minutes. So he's someone that I'm pretty high on this slate. And then I think Gary Trent Jr. I have interest in just because the ceiling and he's relatively cheap as well. So I'm looking at like that Bucks value group with like Torian Prince and Gary Trent Jr. and Andre Jackson and AJ Green. I'm looking at like, okay, well, who do I think has the highest like ceiling of this group? I think that answer for me is Gary Trent Jr. So I think like Cason Wallace, Gary Trent Jr. are two of my, I guess, favorite value plays.
I want to like Gary Trent Jr. more than I'm getting of him. I don't have as much as I thought I would because he is the guy that stands out most to me because he's not a bad perimeter defender. Good enough that that works. I mean, basically everybody that Milwaukee has outside of their main dudes are all one-way players. They're either your Bobby Portises who can only play
Mm-hmm.
offense and are dreadful on defense. They're
That's
Andre
true.
Jackson who's dreadful on offense but really good on defense. And Trent is like can shoot and defend enough that I expect him to be a guy that soaks up maybe a little bit more playing time, especially with no Middleton around. But it all comes down to shots. You know, he goes 0 for 5 from 3 in the first half, and he's probably not going to be that guy any longer. But
Right.
he is the guy. I'm with you there. I think he stands out quite a bit. I'll be honest, and I want to get your take here. I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of AJ Mitchell, and I want to be very clear here. I don't like that, but he is the sort of the cheapest guy you can conceivably get to, depending, at least like with DeLon Wright and Connaughton, it's not even just about the fact that they're flat 1K. I'm not confident that I know which one of them plays, if one of
Mm-hmm.
them plays. Whereas, like, I assume AJ Mitchell plays. It's also a really good spot to shave his minutes, and he doesn't play because he's a rookie and this game matters. But that 60, I think that $1,600 price tag is doing a lot of work for me in trying to get to more combinations of all of those pay up options. Do you like him at all? For the record,
Um,
I don't think I like him, but I have
yeah.
him.
Yeah, it worries me. I mean, he's not. The thing is, though, he's not getting much ownership, so that is a positive. As you mentioned, like I think if the Thunder do trim down the rotation, like he would be the guy most likely to get trimmed.
Yeah.
He did play in the most recent game though, but yeah, like man, I would just feel like so much better about Kenrich Williams or Aaron Wiggins for like a little bit more, but I understand why it's happening because he's just a little bit cheaper and probably makes things easier in other aspects of the lineup. But yeah, he scares me just because again, I think he'll play, but it's not a guarantee. You mentioned two other guys that could play in Connaughton and DeLon Wright. That's not even guaranteed that they play either. So yeah, my answer is no, I don't love it, but I
Yeah.
understand why it's happening for you.
So on the season, let's see. The Thunder have played 25 games.
Mm-hmm.
In those 25 games, Shea and AJ Mitchell have only shared the floor for 127 minutes, so about 5 minutes a game. If this is a game where you see Shea playing more, I think AJ Mitchell is the guy that plays less just because he's sort of like the guy that you want like handling the ball. I'm putting in quotes. Obviously, like that's also Jalen Williams if he's on the floor when Shea's out. And that's the part that kind of concerns me. If this is a close game and Shea plays 41, we might get 7 minutes out of AJ
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell if they're not trying to, if they're running a more consolidated rotation. That's the part that probably concerns me the most. Also, although they don't seem to like Aaron Wiggins as much as I thought they were going to like him, but
Yeah,
that's my
his
concern.
the minutes on Wiggins have been weird, like ticking down. Because I actually think like he's a good fit for this team too. So like I would not be surprised if Wiggins comes out and plays like 20 minutes in a game like this. I think it's definitely possible.
This is what I would expect them to use him for, but he
Right.
might just legitimately be behind Wallace, Caruso, Joe, and Kenrich Williams to me, slightly different for today, at least. So he might really just be the ninth dude. Yikes. Yikes. I'm hoping that I get a little bit less of AJ Mitchell by the time we get closer to lock. Is there anybody else you want to touch on here from Milwaukee or from OKC? Anything that we haven't unearthed? Anything that you saw earlier today that you
Yeah.
wanted to tip people off to?
Um, let me see. Looking through. I mean, I guess we haven't really talked about Brooke Lopez much. He's at 7K. I think it's pretty hard to get to him. I do think this is a game where he's going to play 30 plus minutes. But he's kind of been like an afterthought offensively. But a lot of those games were with Middleton in. When Middleton was out, like Portis or Brook Lopez, I should say, was playing better. What are your thoughts on him? Like, do you have any interest in Lopez?
He's been so atrocious
Right.
so far this year. He's not involved in the same way. For the record, I only have a single share of him. So that is not happening. Negative -0.7 EPM, but sub 60% true shooting, which not necessarily what you want to see. The 3-point percentage is down to around 56%. But I think the more interesting piece here is that like he takes 2.3 shots at the rim per 75 possessions. For a dude like of his size, that feels incorrect. But that's just not how they use him. He's more of a spacing operator than anything
Mm-hmm.
else. Like it's crazy to think about at his peak in Brooklyn, he took 10 shots every 75 possessions at the rim. That's down to 2.3 now. It's like he shrunk. It's like they cut him off at the knees.
It was so weird because he was a completely different player in Brooklyn than he is now. Because he didn't really shoot threes much at all in Brooklyn, right? From what I remember.
He never shot
Yeah.
threes until 2017. His final year in Brooklyn, he went from 0 attempts per 75 possessions, essentially 0, zero point 0.2, but you know what I mean, to 6.2 the following year. So he went from never to more frequently than just about every center that exists in the league. And since then, it's basically been in that 6 or 7 range every year. It's 5.6 this year, not as surprising to me. They also have Dame now, which is going to change it a little bit more than it did when it was Drew Holiday. But yeah, I'm not confident. Like, I don't know if anybody has ever reinvented their game like this in the NBA more so than Brook Lopez.
Yeah, it was a complete change, like almost out of nowhere too. So I just remember that year. I was like, wait, what is going on here? But I wanted to bring up one other thing with like
Okay.
I know Lopez and Portis not getting much ownership. Me personally, though, I don't think I would play them both together because I feel like if Portis gets extended, it's probably Lopez getting his minutes limited. Or if like Portis doesn't play much at all, Brook Lopez is probably playing like 38 minutes. So that's one where like I don't think on this slate something really weird would have to happen for those two to both make like a winning lineup.
You want to build a lineup or two?
Yeah, I'm down.
Jordan Klein, you know what to do. Pull up the old single lineup sim. And guys, before we go any further, you could use this tool if you want by signing up at Stokastic if you haven't done that yet. Link in the description. Jordan will drop it into chat as well. $0. Zilch. Nada. You cut no money to us at all. You see the partners that we have on the screen. If you're in a legal pick'em state or a legal sports betting state, there's going to be a partner that you can use to sign up. And it's not like they have crazy deposit requirements or anything like that. Each one's probably a little bit more unique than the other. But you can get in, get a deposit bonus or bonus bets or free bets. You'll get something from wherever you're signing up. And you get projections and ownership and sim tools and premium Discord for a month for free from us. It's the easiest way that you could ever test out anything at Stokastic. We just picked up another Millie winner again this week in the NFL. I believe that's our fourth this season. Correct me if I'm wrong, nobody, because I don't know if Jordan knows that off the top of his head, and I don't think anybody else knows it, but I think it's our fourth. Third? Third? All right. Well, we'll go with fourth because it's more fun to lie with bigger numbers. But, either way, a couple millies. That could be you. Use our stuff. Get it for free. And if you win that milli, it'll be pretty nice as well. Send me a couple shekels if you do. All right, I'm gonna throw it to you to start this one, DK. We're
Okay.
gonna alternate our selections, but I will let you choose the captain, unless you don't want to do that. You want to kick that over to me, but I will give you the captain spot if that's something interesting to you.
Okay. Let's just play it standard for now. Let's go with Giannis.
Alrighty. I might hamstring you here and make you go AJ Mitchell. Okay. So if we're gonna go to Giannis, I'm gonna go value for right
Okay.
now. This will free you up for whatever you want. Let's go Kenrich Williams.
I like that. Okay. So Giannis Kenrich, we got what, 7K remaining. Um, okay, let's go. I'll go with another value play, and then we can see where that takes us. So let's go with Case and Wallace. I think right now is one of the better point per dollar values in the slate.
I like it. I like it. All righty. This is where it gets a little dicey. So we have Giannis, Kenrich, Case and Wallace. Give me Isaiah Hartenstein.
I like that call. Okay. So we got 3 Thunder, 1 Bucks. And honestly, like when I was messing with lineups a bit before the stream, I don't know about you, I was getting a lot more Thunder than
Yeah.
Milwaukee. I think it's just easier to get to more Thunder on this showdown than it is the Bucks.
I can give me 1 second and I can give you my answer here.
Okay.
So let's see. Actually, I basically either have 3 threes or 4 twos and 5 ones for OKC. I don't really have any lineups that go heavy to the Milwaukee side. So
Right.
I'm on the same page as you.
Okay. All right. So I feel like the
And take whoever you want.
yeah.
I'll make it work with whatever salary you give me, so long as it's at least
Okay.
$1,000.
Yep. So I feel like the most likely answer here would be Shea, but let's mix it up a little bit. Let's go to J Dub.
Okay. All righty. So we've got Giannis, Kenrich, Kaysen Wallace, Isaiah Hartenstein, Jalen Williams. Jordan, does that say 3,900?
Yeah,
Okay.
3,900. Yep.
Little blurry. Okay, so the obvious answer here, I think, is Gary Trent.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try Gary Trent. How'd we do? Go 25. 100K up top in the main tonight, $400,000 prize pool. That's a drum roll if you guys hear it. I'm not hammering one under the desk.
Someone in chat said, "LOL, that's my lineup." Hey, there we go.
Well, there we go. I'll take 19%.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
take
solid,
19%.
right? Yeah.
So the goal now, we're going to build one more.
Okay.
We got to try to beat it. We'll flip the picks here.
All right.
So 19.1 is the leader in the clubhouse. Can we do better than that? And if any of you guys win tonight using this lineup, you better have our avatar on there. Go to stokastic.com/avatar and load that bad boy up and let everybody know where you got it. NBA Deeper Dive came straight from us. So we did the Giannis lineup. We did not have Shea in it. It only feels right to start off a new lineup with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in the captain spot.
I like it. Okay. So going Shea. Let's see. So we did Case and Wallace last time as like a value play. I think he's slightly the more optimal option. But let's go to Caruso, who I think will come in a little bit less owned.
I like it. I'm going to try to be different here and see if this could be a way that I think it's going to cost us in ROI, but we're going to find out. Damian Lillard.
Okay. Yeah. So would be it's basically impossible to get to Giannis unless you're taking like 2 complete punts, which I don't think we want to do that.
That's up to you.
So let's see. Let's go to Hartenstein.
Okay. I like it. Okay, so what do we got? 3,900 apiece?
Yep.
Okay. So we don't have Giannis in this lineup. We only have Dame. That It's going to take Portis and Lopez out of this equation. So we're probably going to need to be in that Prince, Trent, Jackson, AJ Green group. Or
Right.
we get extra ugly if we're taking another Milwaukee guy.
Yeah, I think like if we're fading Giannis and playing like one of these Bucks Valley is probably gonna have to have like a really solid game.
Give me AJ Green.
Okay.
Maybe with Dame being in there and AJ Green being in there, the game script for Milwaukee is bomb threes, and those two
Right.
guys are definitely the best two guys that can do that on this team.
Okay.
While this seems like it's obvious, but we could leave salary on the table.
Right. So I was thinking like Gary Trent over Case and Wallace just because if Giannis gets in like I don't know like it's something weird has to happen there, but I don't know like this lineup is already I feel like pretty contrarian fading Giannis. I feel like we just go Kaysen and use all our salary.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And then if
See if
this
we can.
lineup sucks, we'll take him out and we'll try it with Trent.
Okay.
What are we at?
I feel like
19-1?
I feel like it's not going to be great, but
Okay. Hey, green's better than red, baby. Let's try it with the ownership discount, not spending the full salary. I'm not confident. Wait, hold on, Jordan. Go clear that back out again. No. Just that last pick of Trent. If you sort by projection, who's on the top? Okay. And then Trent is next. Okay. We're good with Trent then. I was just making sure there wasn't a higher projected dude that we weren't looking at. I didn't think there was, but it's hard for me to see. I think this is going to end up being negative. I think we're end up leaving too much salary on the
right.
table here.
I agree.
Whew. Going out with a whimper on that one.
I figured just because I was like, we already have a contrarian enough lineup where I don't think it would make sense to leave salary there.
So we have how much left?
It's 1,200 on the table if you play Trent over Kaysen.
Okay. Is there any spot where we could upgrade with that 1,200? I don't think there is. Wait, we have Dame, right?
Yes, we have Dame.
Just out of curiosity, turn Dame into Shea. We should be able to do.
Shay's, yeah, we have Shay's captain
shit.
spot.
I was only looking at our salary table and saw that we had 1,200, and I was like, oh, that works out perfectly. Never mind. Who did you take out there? Oh, you did take out Dame. Yeah, put him back in. So we can't do anything with $1,200 for Hartenstein. That leaves us $400 or $200 short of Jalen Williams. AJ Green would take us up to 4,200, which doesn't unlock anybody. I actually don't think we can make a change here.
No,
I think this construction just sucks.
Yeah, it's a shitty lineup. That's what it is.
Well, there we go, folks. We've reached the end of the line for the NBA Deeper Dive, but you guys are in the luck. Avi, any minutes for Wright with no Middleton? Maybe. He might be the last guy. It might be Pat Connaughton. It's hard to know. It's a risk. You might get 0 if you do it, or you might get, 8 to 10 minutes and the value could work. But I don't have a great feel of which one of those dudes it's going to be. Neither do we. We have them at like 4 minutes and 6 minutes combined. So it's possible that one of those dudes just gets 10, but I don't totally know. But the NBA Live Before Lock crew is going to be able to answer any question you have over the next 45 minutes. They're coming in next. DK, tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter. It's me DK__DFS or on YouTube DK DFS.
There we go, everybody. Good luck tonight. Enjoy the NBA Cup Finals. We'll see you again on Thursday, but stay right here. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next.
I'm there. You're welcome.
If you ask me if I'm ready again.
God.
What is happening, everyone? Welcome to the conclusion of the NBA Cup, which I like the NBA Cup. I'll enjoy tonight's game. Eric's camera is, by the way, just as a intro to the show here, Eric's camera is being goofy as hell right now. It just keeps turning. That was very weird too. Oh my God. Do you have him on screen right now, Jordan? Do people see what's going on?
No.
Okay. So Eric's camera is going all kinds of crazy right now. He is, his picture goes in, it goes out, then it's just his name on screen. So I don't know what kind of tech issues Eric is dealing with, but there is a chance. You know what? Can you do you have a placeholder picture? If it goes out one more time, which I suspect it's about to, just put a placeholder picture up for Eric, Jordan.
Gee, I wonder what placeholder picture. Hang on. Don't you dare put one of them of me smoking a cigarette in Chicago or in Los Angeles with you. Like, do not do that. I don't feel well. I don't need that. And don't put me with Peyton Pritchard. He's not on the slate.
All right. You heard him. He demands to be Caitlin Lindquist on screen.
Oh my. The worst of any of them that you could have come up with. Thank you.
All right. So that's what we're going to do. If it goes out, make your camera cooperate then. One more time it goes out, God. Jordan, and we're putting the Caitlin Lindquist, and that is going to be Eric's cover picture for the rest of the show. But anyway, end of the NBA Cup. That's it. It's happening. It's Caitlin Lindquist on screen. It's the only.
I updated my Google Chrome and my Zoom today. I hadn't done it in a while, and I was like, oh, it's just a 45-minute show, whatever. And apparently everything is now screwed. Like, everything is messed up. There's no chance.
Yeah.
This is so bad.
This is not great, sir. This is not great. But I mean, Eric, by the way, Eric, champion for coming on the show, even though if Eric would have told me earlier in the day he was feeling shitty, wouldn't have made him talk about this one game slate, but I would have gotten somebody else to fill him. But Eric waits until
I needed to get up and do something today. I was in bed sick like all day, and I was like, oh, I'm going to feel better by tonight. I do not feel better by tonight. God damn it, this camera.
Jordan, just put the Caitlin Lindquist picture over him, and they'll be good to go. He doesn't have to be on camera. He's not feeling well, and he gets a better looking picture and stuff. Everybody wins. I know the audience will be happy about it.
Am I going to do a whole show with Caitlin Lindquist as my picture?
Yeah. People will love it.
Oh my God.
People will love it. I mean, they're gonna get dizzy looking at your camera turning in and out other way. Yeah.
I didn't do this, by the way.
So anyway, guys, if you could do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, do it for Eric, who is struggling with, his camera's doing just as poorly as he is right now. And we've just got this one game slate, which as much as I've loved some of the NBA Cup games, it really is not great from a DFS and a betting perspective. So I'm looking forward to it getting over with, and then we'll start to be having some more regular NBA slates next week past the holidays. But right off the bat here, Eric, and we've got some super chats that have come in as well. If you guys have questions for us in the Discord channel, hit me up. I'll be answering those over the course of the show as well. What do you make of Chris Middleton being out? Because much like yourself, he's dealing with an illness. He was probable earlier in the day. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he gets downgraded to doubtful. Now he's been ruled out. Who's going to benefit the most from the Bucks for tonight and the absence of Chris Middleton?
I got to think it's two people specifically, one being Bobby Portis. I think there's a world where we see a little bit of extra opportunity, because I think with the absence of Chris Middleton, we've seen that assist rate go up. Not that that's something Bobby Portis is known for, but I think we're going to see an opportunity for him to kind of run that second unit. And, we've got him in for 25 minutes. I think that that's about right for him here tonight. I think there's a world where he gets extended if he's knocking down shots. And how many times have we seen a nuclear ceiling from Bobby Portis? Many times. I'm a little bit worried that he gets a little steamed up, and he is more expensive than Brook Lopez, who I think gets the first crack at just about everything. We have him in for 32 minutes, but no matter what, I think you want to take some shots on these guys when you're playing 20, 40, 150 lineups. In one lineup, I doubt I want to get to either of them, though, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. And the other guy I think benefits a little bit is Gary Trent. I think Gary Trent has a possibility of being the guy who helps to spread the floor here a little bit more, ends up on the floor just by default a little bit more. I can't think that it would be AJ Green. AJ Green's going to be shooting dependent no matter what happens. And then working through some rotations, which is basically the entire year because Chris Middleton's only been back for a hot cup of coffee. I think we want to get ourselves to a little bit more of like Torian Prince, I would think. But I mean, it just gets really, really thin after taking some shots on the likes of like an AJ Green. But the two main beneficiaries, I think, Gary Trent Jr. and one Bobby Portis.
Yeah, AJ Green is my favorite value option on the slate as a result of this. And you know, we're getting out of AJ Green 3-point shooting at just a 3K price point. Oh, and by the way, he's a little more favorable looking on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. A lot of that has to do because literally all of his production comes from 3-point shooting. But if you go ahead and you look at AJ Green, 3K over on DraftKings, I think he profiles as the best overall value option over there. On FanDuel, if I look at my top lineups, I do get to a little bit of AJ Green, but it's 7K. It's kind of a different situation. He doesn't help you out that much, especially when there's no multiplier in terms of the salary for the MVP spot over on FanDuel. So he would be not viable at all if Chris Middleton was playing over on FanDuel, at least brings him into play. But he's a value option I really like on DraftKings in the absence of Chris Middleton. There's just clear minutes that go there now. And another thing that we have to take into consideration, Eric, is I don't know what your expectation is for minutes, but I think these teams are going to be running like game 7 of an NBA playoff series sort of rotation. And with that being the case, it means Giannis playing bigger minutes. It means SGA playing bigger minutes. It means Damian Lillard's playing bigger minutes. And if those guys are playing bigger minutes, it's kind of hard to find value, but it also means we want to play those guys. So that's where AJ Green comes into play for me, because there really aren't that many viable value options unless you see it much differently.
I'm in shambles. I'm in absolute shambles. Why today? Why did this have to happen to me today? There it's going. My camera's starting to go again. Let me guess, Jordan. No matter what, even if my camera goes back on now, I'm going to be Caitlin Lindquist.
Yeah, listen, Eric, it's I don't think it's your fault. It's the technology's fault, but we can't do a show where your camera just turns on and off every 5 seconds. This is going to be the solution that appeases 99.999999999% of people watching this show. It will only displease one person who's on the show, and we do this for the audience.
Yeah, it's definitely not about me at any point in time. Thanks, Jordan Klein. Really appreciate you. I'm glad to be a part of everything going on here at Stokastic. Thank you.
Yeah, we got the chat is on fire right now. People are so excited. There's only so many things to talk about on a 1-game slate, and this is certainly helping to entertain the people right there. If you guys want to be more entertained for regular-sized NBA slates as well, check out the Stokastic tools. You can sign up for any of them using the link down below in the YouTube description box, or take advantage of our link join offer. For each one of our affiliates you guys sign up for, 1 free month of core access to any sport of your choosing. Our core package includes our player projections, our ownership projections, the single lineup sims, our contest generator, our sims, and you get 1 month free for each one of these books you sign up for the sport of your choosing. So if you want to do NFL, you want to do NBA, you can do multiple sports, whatever it is you decide on. Just make sure when you sign up, you use the link down below in the YouTube description box. It is very important for the purposes of tracking so that the books know that we are the ones who sent you guys there. All right, let's go back and get back to some of your guys' questions, because I am seeing that we have a handful of super chats that came in. One of them here is from Avi Schreier. Avi wants to know, any minutes for DeLon Wright with no Middleton tonight? Eric, DeLon Wright, is he somebody that you are considering for tonight's slate?
I have him in for 5 minutes. And I guess the conversation that we have, like every one of these showdown slates, if you have to go down to the 1K range and fire somebody up, like who does that end up being for you today? Because I don't think Pat Connaughton's been a part of this rotation for a while, and I don't see him being a part of this rotation for a while, but I think he's probably the guy that I would want to play, but I'm a little bit worried that everybody clicks on him in the 1K range where you zero it out. I will also say none of the 1K players are really simming out all that well. So if you're using the Sims tool, I don't think there's a world where the 1K guys are going to show up a prevalent amount, but I slightly prefer Pat Connaughton to DeLon Wright if you're going to take a shot on one of those down there at the bottom. You're playing more into like an extreme blowout script where it's like, as Greg said, Game 7 NBA Finals. You're looking at a team up 30, 35 in that fourth quarter. Who ends up being the first guy out there? I think Marion Beauchamp makes some sense. Pat Connaughton makes some sense. DeLon Wright is probably third for me. Who's your favorite 1K player, Greg?
It is DeLon Wright for myself. And the caveat being, I don't love any of these guys. But once again, one of these scenarios where the starters all go crazy, there's, especially the pay up guys, there's a scenario here where you get somebody who scores 0 fantasy points at 1K in the winning lineup. We've seen that in the past in some of these high leverage games for showdown slates. And DeLon Wright, of all of these cheap guys, he's at least the best fantasy producer. So that's something that makes me feel good about clicking on him. Whether the minutes are going to be there or not, we're not projecting him for very many minutes, but we at least do have him getting some play in the rotation. He's only projected for 4% ownership. It's a very minimal amount. If I have to play one guy at 1K, it's going to be DeLon Wright, but it's a very soft recommendation.
Multiple people calling me Courtney Cox in the in the YouTube chat. I really appreciate that. That's kind of I think that's a compliment. I'll take it. I'll take Courtney Cox. She ended up getting, I don't know if people know the story of Courtney Cox. She got super famous by getting put up on the Jumbotron at an LA concert, at a Bruce Springsteen concert. She ended up getting like super famous, and that's how she wrote it into Friends fame. But yeah, go me. If I'm going to look like Courtney Cox, I'll just keep this all the time. Maybe plastic surgery.
I thought she got famous from a face swap on a DFS show.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it works. I really don't. But I am Sportswoman of the Year, Caitlin Lindquist. So that's pretty great, I think. Go me.
That is true. You were on the cover of, was that Sports Illustrated?
Yep, Sports Illustrated. Wearing my whitey tighties, just, living my life, being jacked, playing some golf in the off season. It's kind of what I've been up to.
There you go. You look very pretty today. Next question here. Hey, look at that.
Jordan Klein, son of a biscuit. Oh my God.
That's an actual quote from Jalen Brunson.
This has literally become the Jordan Klein show. Okay, we got the normal starting lineup here for the Bucks: Lillard, Jackson Jr., Prince, Giannis, Lopez. So we can talk about DFS.
Yeah, we got a super chat as well from, there's nothing we talk about for the starting lineup because that was the totally expected one. Nothing changes there. We do have a super chat here. Another one from Abby. He wants to know, can you guys speak a little bit about FanDuel? Yeah, absolutely. So if we go and talk specifically about FanDuel, I think this is a good way. We could actually go back and forth going over some core plays for the slate. And let's do it for both FanDuel and DraftKings, Eric. But since Abby asked us a FanDuel-related question, let's start with FanDuel. We'll begin at the MVP spot, and we'll go from MVP, then we'll go Pro, then we'll go Star, then we'll go Flex. But starting at the MVP spot, I want to know, can you make a strong case for anybody outside of Giannis or SGA to be the MVP on FanDuel?
No. Damian Lillard could always go for 45. I think that's something he's proven he is very capable of doing at a moment's notice. But if I'm making one lineup, no chance. If I'm making 10 lineups, I'd have to think about it. And more than likely, because of the way Giannis just fills up a box score, there's not many worlds where, like, my pivot off of SGA would be to Giannis, who is the most popular MVP for a very clear reason. You add up all of his props, 1.5 blocks, 0.5 steals, you put in, 6, 13 and 31, 32 points. It's just a ridiculous projection that he's getting over on FanDuel today with that bump to the steals and blocks. SGA, he can be a thief himself, but if I'm not going to play SGA in a lineup, I'm probably going to play Giannis and vice versa in that MVP slot. Not many worlds where I don't play one of those two.
My preference is SGA solely because of the ownership difference. We've got SGA at 33% projected ownership in the MVP spot. We've got Giannis at 56% projected ownership in the MVP spot. And for sure, if you're just trying to build a cash lineup and make it for the highest projected fantasy points, the answer is going to be Giannis in the MVP spot. But I do like the ownership discount I'm getting on SGA. Relative to their ownership, I'm overweight to SGA in the multiplier spot on FanDuel. I'm underweight to Giannis. Now, with that said, I do have more of Giannis overall, but relative to the ownership, overweight to SGA, underweight to Giannis. So I'll pick SGA as my favorite overall MVP, all things being considered. If I had to take somebody who isn't one of the big two, which is not my preference, but if I had to pick somebody, I'd actually go with Jalen Williams there, Eric. The reason being Jalen Williams over Damian Lillard for me, while Dame does have the scoring upside, Jalen Williams fills up the other aspects of the box score in a way that Damian Lillard is just not really capable of doing. And we do have Jalen Williams projected for about 5 more fantasy points than Dame today. So That being considered, I would go with Jalen Williams if I had to be contrarian. But once again, I'd rather play Giannis or SGA and try to get different elsewhere.
We're going to
Pro
rerun
spot,
everything.
star spot.
Isaiah Joe starting over Case and Wallace. That was not what I was expecting.
No. So this is actually unexpected breaking news. Game starting in 24 minutes. Isaiah Joe starting. Eric, what does this do to Case and Wallace? And now also, Isaiah Joe, is he somebody that we're going to have to be prioritizing more?
I mean, I'm playing 20 lineups. I might just play 0 Case and Wallace. I mean, he's going to be over-owned. He is not cheap. He's 4,800. He's up there. He's the first guy that we had in the assumed OKC lineup that is sitting underneath Lou Dort. He's generally the cheapest guy in that starting lineup, plays 31, 32 minutes. I think now you got to drastically reduce his workload. You're going to go from like 30 minutes to like potentially 24. And I mean, Isaiah Joe gets the first crack at it. The thing about Isaiah Joe is he's a floor spacer. He goes out there with the intent of knocking down shots ad nauseum. And he's at 2,800. Because this news came out 23 minutes before lock, I doubt the public, the people, I mean, every contest on DraftKings filled up like 4 hours early today. It was absolutely insane. What are you giggling? Because I'm
laughing that it's a shitty 1-game slate and people still filled the contest 10 hours ago or whatever it was.
Oh, they've ran like 3 iterations of the main too. I mean, it's just insane how many people are playing this 1-game slate. It reminds me of playoff time. So, I mean, this is going to be the most playoff centric time we have leading up until, I don't know when. It's going to be a long time until the playoffs, starting in May, April, end of April. But we know those times well. Obviously, we're doing them alongside MLB. And I look at what we're getting here with Isaiah Joe. He looks like the guy that if I'm playing single entry, if I'm playing one lineup, I'm probably pivoting anything where I was considering Case and Wallace, and I'm turning it into Isaiah Joe pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, I'm looking at the minutes for these guys now when they've started, when they've come off the bench, just to get an idea for what this means. And as a starter this year, Isaiah Joe plays 25 minutes per game. When he comes off the bench, he's playing 19 minutes per game. So right off the bat there, you're kind of seeing the impact that this would have on Isaiah Joe's minutes, 6 more minutes as a starter compared to as a reserve. And then Cason Wallace, on the other hand, he as a starter plays 29.5 minutes per game, and as a reserve, 23.5. So it's pretty clear what happens here. There's about 6 minutes that goes from Cason Wallace to Isaiah Joe when the roles are reversed. So yeah, I think we have to consider Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace. You know, it's a 1-game slate, so it's hard to call anybody unplayable. But Wallace is clearly a much weaker option now. And then Isaiah Joe, who's $2,800 on DraftKings, he's only $7K on FanDuel. I think he very quickly becomes the best value option on the slate, does he not?
Without a doubt. I think that there's no question. When you get a starting Isaiah Joe at 2,800 here, as you said, 25 to 19 minutes. I mean, I just tweaked everything on my end. I gave him 5 more minutes. I had him at 19. I put him up to 24 minutes. And he is showing up a lot more than what he was before. I thought Cason Wallace would be my highest owned cheapie, along with everybody else. But here's the thing. I don't think a lot of that Cason Wallace is going to go anywhere for the public. I repeat, this filled up 4 hours ago. People have already built their lineups. If you're watching this show, if you're one of the people looking at my stupid AI face that has been blended with Caitlin Clark, you should know that there is no doubt Cason Wallace is going to be over-owned on this slate. And knowing that Cason Wallace is going to be over-owned on this slate, I'm not going to hit complete eject on 20 lineups. I bet I still get him in 1 or 2, but there's a good chance that when I go back into the Sims with his current projected ownership, once we get everything updated, he will be somebody who is drastically cut out of my lineups.
Yeah, I am anxiously awaiting to see
what does this do for Alex Caruso for you? Because I think this is probably news that benefits. Like, if you're not going to play Isaiah Joe, I think Alex Caruso is the most interesting guy. He only played 20 minutes, didn't do anything crazy there against Houston. But I do think there's a world where some of those Cason Wallace minutes, like, he doesn't even have to play 25 minutes like I'm projecting right now, 26 minutes. I just basically took 6 off of him, added 5 there, put 1 to Caruso. What do you think about Alex Caruso on this slate? Because we all think about him as a 1 game to rule them all, 1 game to find them type of a player. He's a playoff guy, somebody OKC went to go get for his defense. Is there a world where he plays like 26, 28 minutes and Cason Wallace plays like 16?
So I'll tell you what our minutes per, because we just had a projections update. Here's where we ended up going.
All right, Rich, what are we doing?
Caruso at 22 minutes, Wallace at 24, and Isaiah Joe at 22. Now, relative to their salaries, the way that these guys rank out for us in terms of points per dollar, it's Isaiah Joe 1, Caruso 2, and Cason Wallace 3.
Amy S. just said that's not Courtney Cox. See, the one woman watching our show just came for my jugular. That's not very nice. It's kind of hurtful. I thought I was looking pretty today.
Well,
in a vulnerable state.
Like, maybe you just don't look like a star from Friends, the TV show. I do agree with you, though, Eric. I think there's a chance for an upside in minutes for Alex Caruso. I wouldn't want to project him for 26.
No, I wouldn't either. But again, when you're thinking about things, if you're watching the show, you're probably making a couple of lineups. You might be playing 20 max. I think the number of people playing 150 right now, you're going to probably understand the balances right now. You probably want to skew it more towards the Isaiah Joe side. But like, I do think Alex Caruso is very interesting now because Cason Wallace isn't locked into those 30, 32 minutes. And Cason Wallace, again, I think with the limited amount of lineups I'm going to play, I'm going to reduce him to just about 0. Like he might be in 1 or 2 when it's all said and done, but I doubt he's in more than that.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what I end up getting to in the Sims as I update everything. But first, let's get back to the rest of the questions we've been asked. And yeah, now some of this is going to change based on that news that we just got, but we'll go back to Avi's question, who wanted to know our top options over for FanDuel. We talked about the MVP spot. We were just about to talk about the star options. And then what ends up happening is we get unexpected breaking news, and that kind of derailed the conversation, although necessarily so. But in the star spot, Eric, who stands out to you the most as a star play over on FanDuel?
I gotta think the main two, just because I look at the fact that you're making concessions to salary. MVP, it's so hard to get away from guys like Giannis in the 60s, SGA in the 50s. What do you think about Isaiah Hartenstein? Because like this is somebody out there for his defense. We could see in one game to rule them all as well, his minutes extended into the mid to high 30s. Like that's probably the guy who's my favorite tournament play as far as like, if I'm going to get away on DraftKings from SGA and Giannis in the captain spot, I'm going to probably go to Isaiah Hartenstein. But on FanDuel, obviously, I think that if I'm not going to play both of those two in a lineup where your options are very limited on who you're going to combine them with, I think Isaiah Hartenstein's probably my second favorite. How about you?
It's Dame for me. I don't have an issue with Hartenstein, but you get a $1,400 price tag on Dame. I have found that it's kind of hard to make lineups that have both SGA and Giannis in them over on FanDuel. It's possible, but there's some really big opportunity cost in terms of the salary. So that's the reason why Jalen Williams, he is the most popular play at the position. Well, actually, him and SGA about tied as the most popular star options over on FanDuel, but that's the reason why they both come in more popular than Giannis. Just it's hard to make some of those lineups with Giannis and SGA together. But I also like Dame in the star spot. I don't think he is quite the upside to be an MVP option for me that I would want to prioritize. But in the star spot where the multiplier is a little bit lower, I'm going to go with Dame there. I don't mind Hartenstein as a call out at all, though. Pro spot. Is there anything interesting for you in the pro spot? Still multiplier spot on FanDuel, but the lowest multiplier spot of all the multipliers.
The lowest multiplier spot of all the multipliers. Yeah, no, it's getting fun down there. That's where Isaiah Hartenstein's really popular. And that's why if I'm looking at the star, it's like, man, I'm getting a lot of leverage off of over a third of the lineups that are going to be playing a 12K Hartenstein just by moving him up one spot. And I mean, if you get that ceiling Hartenstein game, you're just bypassing not only a majority of the lineups that don't have him there, but you're bypassing 36% of the people who only have him in the pro. I think that's one where if it ends up like 40-10, you'd really look good having Hartenstein there in the star. Going through some of the pro, I guess the most interesting person to me next would be Jalen Williams, but he's very popular there as well, nearly 21% ownership. I think that there's a world where, like, I just built it out here on FanDuel. I'm going to put this in, the 40th iteration of their tournaments because, they filled everything too. SGA, and then going to Hartenstein, Jalen Williams, kind of like an OKC onslaught type, where you then go to like a garbage time piece of Milwaukee. Like playing more of a blowout script there on the OKC side, but I think Jalen Williams probably the next most intriguing one. I suppose Bobby Portis at 11K too looks pretty decent, but I just ran some stuff here on FanDuel. I just favored in my top 150. And I am getting Isaiah Hartenstein the most in the pro. But again, I do think that that's going to be what the field does here. If you're building out one lineup, I like the idea of going to Jalen Williams there, maybe moving Hartenstein up to that star spot and moving on from there.
I'm getting a good deal overweight to Brook Lopez. He is very cheap, only 10K. His scoring is more favorable for FanDuel and DraftKings as well because of the block potential. Brook Lopez, he's the player I'm most overweight to in the pro spot of the lineups that built out.
Cue him hitting 5 threes.
I mean, there's potential from the knockdown threes. I also think that he could be potential leverage off of Bobby Portis because if Brook Lopez plays well, those minutes are going to be coming away from Bobby Portis. So he's a decent contrarian option over on DraftKings as well, at least as far as contrarian goes for a 1-game slate. And then over in the flex spot, now that he's starting, that is going to be Isaiah Joe for me at 7K as somebody who I want to be overweight to over on FanDuel.
Oh, did Greg go? Where did Greg go?
No.
Oh, hello.
I don't think so. Are you gone?
Nope, I'm right here. Right here.
Okay. Yeah, we have no way of knowing if you're gone. We have no way of knowing if you're gone or not because.
Well, I haven't clicked the camera button in a
AI
while here because it just goes away right away. So I'm trying to figure out what to do. But
all good. So Eric, FanDuel, who's your favorite flex option to save salary with? I'm going with Isaiah Joe.
Yeah, Isaiah Joe for sure. At this point in time, he's now starting. You got to bump his minutes up from, again, we had him around 18, 19 minutes. He's going to play around 24, 25 minutes. He is your best value play on both sites.
Yep, that's where I'm at as well. Let's see if we had an ownership update now, which I assume we do. And then if we do, then I could start running some sims here with the update. And whoops, forgot that I have to click on the showdown and not the main slate.
You know who really disappeared from me is AJ Mitchell in the aftermath of this news. When you're saving $2,000 going from Cason Wallace and now dropping down to Isaiah Joe at 2,800. I mean, I had some AJ Mitchell just by necessity. I basically have 0 now, which is kind of wild.
I haven't updated yet, but I assume that I am also not going to be getting to a lot of Mitchell. I do think I'm going to be getting to a lot of Isaiah Joe. We just got that ownership update, Eric. He is projected for a little bit more than 40% ownership, and I do agree that he's going to be somewhat popular now. But like what you said before, I don't think the field is going to massively react to just jam Isaiah Joe now.
Nope, I don't. I think they're going to keep Cason Wallace. So I'm much more of a fan of like trimming Cason Wallace than I am just straight up jamming Isaiah Joe, because Isaiah Joe, if he isn't knocking down shots, there's still a floor there. But no matter what, I think that like Caruso becomes the more interesting. Like Caruso is already interesting. I think most people who do this every day, we're going to look at Caruso and see, hey, there's an upside there. No kidding. But Caruso relative to Cason Wallace is the much better play, because I think he's been in everybody's projected starting lineup all the live long day. I'm very, very interested to be overweight to Caruso now as I'm kind of running through this. I'm very curious to see how much I get in the Sims.
Yep, I've got a sim running right now. So Avi, I hope that helps answer your question there. Let's see what else we have for questions that have come in. We've got one here from Yobi Trice. He says he's got a Portis captain lineup with Giannis SGA, Cason Wallace, Green, Dort. He wants to know, is this going to be the chalkiest lineup? And then in other news, do we have any NFL best ball lineups advancing? No, my NFL best ball lineups, I did really well getting them to the second round. They all got their ass kicked last week. But Yobi Trice, Portis, Giannis, SGA, Wallace, Green, Dort, is that going to be the chalkiest lineup? I don't think Wallace is going to be in the most duped lineup at this point, but I'm running a sim right now. I'll tell you what's projected to be the most duped lineup right after this is done being run.
I have 13 advanced lineups in the puppy, and then the like second version of the puppy on Underdog. So I think Underdog's really where I'm cheering. I have 2, one through in the, what is it, the front 4, and one in something else. But yeah, I have none that are live now in the DK main 20, which sucks, out of my 40 that I played there. And then on Underdog, let me pull this up here while I'm looking at it, and I'll let you run your stuff because I'm just an icon on a screen right now. I am Caitlin Lindquist at her finest. Let's see. Underdog. Yeah. So I've got a couple in the main and the underdog. I've got 2 in the best ball million. And then I've got a number of them in the puppy. I've got 9 in the total puppy. So 11 there. Got a couple in these, the Pomeranian. But we'll see how that kind of comes to fruition. I'll tweet it out if anything looks cool. I did have one that was had 170 that looked incredible for a lineup, but of course that ended up 3rd in the best ball million. Otherwise, I would have tweeted that out because that would have been an absolute smash.
And as far as his other question, I just realized you have Portis in the captain spot. There's no chance a Bobby Portis lineup is going to be the most duped lineup on the slate. We've got Bobby Portis projected for 2% captain ownership. Just having
there's
Portis
no
in
way.
the captain spot, it's a contrarian lineup.
I mean, I just plugged in Portis while we were talking. I plugged in Portis for the captain lineup just to kind of see what that would look like. And you will not be duped. I'm just going to throw that out there. I put Isaiah Joe. I put AJ Green, and then Brooklyn. I mean, you're going to leave $1,000 on the table. That's the nice thing about this intermediate range. If people are optimizing or doing stuff that isn't through the Sims right now, those Bobby Portis, Brooke Lopez lineups, they're going to leave $1,100 or $1,500 on the table in no man's land with some of those mid-range captains, specifically Bobby Portis. You're going to look really, really good with some of those captains. I don't think they're going to be duped as much as what you think they are. So yeah, there's no way that's going to be a popular build.
Yeah, it is not going to be. You don't have Isaiah Joe in it either. He's going to be popular. That's going to be a somewhat contrarian lineup there. Chris Williams is just atoning for myself and the good ones in chat. Chris, thank you for supporting the channel. He also gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. So, Chris, hopefully you get all of the good luck. This is what Chris trains year-round for the NBA Cup. He waits for everybody to get in on the NBA Showdown contest. Chris is already ahead of you. He's been playing the Showdown slates all year, and he's usually hanging out in the chat over in playback, looking over some of the Showdown slates as well and talking about them. So this is Chris's time to shine. This is in the NBA Finals. And then Pierre left us a super chat asking us, Portis or Dort at utility on FanDuel? Much more upside than Bobby Portis. I prefer him.
Yeah, I prefer Bobby Portis, but I'm kind of rerunning some stuff. What do you think about Taurean Prince today? Because we haven't talked about him too much. His minutes have been slightly down here. He played 9, 18, 20, 20 in the last 4. He hasn't been shooting a lot. He's been out there for defensive purposes in any of those minutes, it would appear. And it's pretty easy to trace that back to Chris Middleton existing. Well, Chris Middleton isn't playing basketball today. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with Taurean Prince in the end, but it would appear that he is somebody who took a sizable bump up. And it's almost like, not that I'm just jamming Isaiah Joe, but I kind of am jamming Isaiah Joe. But I'm curious how much Taurean Prince you get in your lineups.
Not that much. I have, it's not different. We have him project for 19% ownership. I have 16% of him. There's just other guys I prefer. I would rather get to Aaron Wiggins. Not that he projects better, but he's half the price. You got Alex Caruso at a comparable price point. I'm overweight to him, so I prefer Caruso. I prefer AJ Green, who projects better and is $1,000 cheaper than, of course, Isaiah Joe, who is our favorite overall value option on this slate. So I get to some of Taurean Prince. Just so many guys have become higher priorities than him.
Yeah, we have him in for 26 minutes, 0.6 fantasy points per minute, 19% ownership. I think everything looks kind of in line, but I had him in for 29 minutes for a second, and boy, oh boy, did I get to lots of him. So I'm going to tone that down here, and I'll be able to talk more intelligently about it. What we have 6 minutes before lock. It should be easy enough.
Let's finish up answering some more questions from people in Discord, and this one here is coming to us from Parker Boy. He wants to know, what is my best lineup that is not based on ROI? I just upload my lineups. I run everything through the Sims, and then I play my top 150 lineups by ROI. I don't know. I don't usually look at my lineups and say this is the best one.
Yeah, I don't ever say, hey, let's do this that way. Unless you're just, again, sometimes I'll build 10 in the $15 or 10 in the $20, whatever it is, the main iteration. And I'll have my top 10 lineups that go in that, but I'm never identifying one lineup like that. I'm usually hand building out that one in either the single lineup sim, where I'm just basically kind of all right, these are the pivots I like. These are the main tournament plays. And it just kind of fits from a salary building perspective. Yeah, not a whole lot else to add there.
Alucard wants to know who's our favorite option for under 3K, but it cannot be AJ Green. That is Kenrich Williams then.
Isaiah Joe by a mile.
He's not under 3K though.
Yeah, he is 2,800.
Oh yeah, never mind. I assume he means
By a
can't
mile.
be Isaiah Joe either.
Well, he said you gave me the parameters of the question.
You know what?
I'm
You were
sick,
right.
but I'm not a dum-dum, so
Yeah,
Isaiah Joe
you're
is my
right.
answer.
By the way,
Go
AJ
Caitlin
Green
Lindquist.
isn't under 3K
Go me.
either, so
Go me.
that's also confusing because he said we couldn't say AJ Green, but AJ Green isn't under 3K. So
Nate said I should sue for defamation. Honestly, yeah, we're getting there. Also, if you get 400 likes, we're gonna find out from Jordan Klein just how much I'm gonna punch him next time I see him in person, because
you'll be hearing from
my guess is
lawyers.
very
You'll be hearing
hard.
from my
My guess
lawyers.
is very hard. I'm about to, yeah. Oh,
I
the
mean,
rage.
Chad is only talking about how pretty you are, so I don't know. I don't know if that's fair.
Well, some people
yeah.
are.
Anyway,
out for
Alucard
play.
answers pretty clearly Isaiah Joe because I'm an idiot and just looked the salaries wrong. G Doe says Torian Prince or Gary Trent on DraftKings. If you're choosing between Trent and Torian Prince, I lean towards Prince over Gary Trent.
I do too. Gary Trent is more of a commodity, although one of my favorite bets in the aftermath of everything with Chris Middleton getting ruled out, over 1.5 threes for Gary Trent. He shot the ball abysmally this season, but going back to his Toronto days, going back, I mean, wherever he's played basketball, he's been somebody who has been pretty effective in that role. 2 threes. I mean, he's basically just going to sit around the perimeter. You're going to watch Giannis and Dame dribble around, maybe get a couple of kickouts. I like the over of 1.5 threes if you're able to snipe that line. It was available on Pick'em earlier today too, which it was an awesome Pick'em play.
And then Alucard also left us another question in Discord here. It is a 3v3. On one side, Hart, Caruso, and Kenrich Williams. On the other side, Williams, Gary Trent, and Wiggins.
Definitely the first one by a mile. First one by a mile.
Okay. Does he mean Jalen Williams or Kenrich Williams? I have to figure out the salaries now.
See, those are the things where, I mean, doing 3v3s on a 1-game slate. I mean, what are we even doing here? But also, thank you so much for the super chat. Portis or Jordan at the utility on FanDuel from Pierre. I like Portis more because, again, when you're talking about utility, you still want upside there. You don't want him to go completely nuclear and be one of those top 3 spots. But because of what we have for the raw projections for not only Hartenstein, Jalen Williams, but obviously SGA and Giannis, I do like Portis a lot more than Dort here for FanDuel if you have the money for it.
Somebody in chat brings up a good point. I never read out the most duped lineup. One of the reasons I did it is because I didn't give it out is because there wasn't really one clear lineup that was duped more than all of the rest. Based on some of the Sims runs that I've done here, or Jordan actually could, although Jordan, have you run an update since the starting lineup change for the Thunder?
Of course he hasn't. He's lazy as. Oh, it is? It's updated? Okay. Oh. And totally redeem yourself.
There we go. Who's got the bigger dick now, Caitlin? So yeah, you guys can see on screen right now that is currently the lineup in this run that was projected to be duped the most amount of times. Kind of blurry coming across on screen. Maybe it looks clearer in YouTube. It's hard to see over Zoom, but Jordan's got that pulled up there. All right, Eric, we've only got about 30 seconds left to go here. Any final thoughts on the slate here as we head into lock?
Yeah, it's really hard to get away from Giannis and SGA captain. If one of those are not the captain, either on FanDuel or DraftKings, I'm going to have a bad night. I do have a little bit of Isaiah Hartenstein. I do have a little bit of Jalen Williams in the captain as well. But I'm going chalkier there, and I'm just very heavy on the Caruso, AJ Green, and of course, Isaiah Joe side of things. If Cason Wallace has a good game, I'm going to probably never show my face in public again. And we're at lock.
Well, you're off to a good start on that one. So guys, if you haven't done yet, do us a big favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. The more likes we get, the better chance that Eric's got a whole day to get his camera working because there's going to be no NBA tomorrow. Not because of anything we did, just the NBA schedule. There's nothing on it. So tomorrow we're going to be having a night off, no NBA shows. Then Thursday, we have a full-size slate. And kind of weird. We've got like massive slate, small slate, massive slate, small slate. That leads up to Christmas. And then the NBA schedule kind of gets normal after that. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Good luck with your lineups tonight. Enjoy watching the game. I'll be back with another live before lock on Thursday. Peace out.